You make more money than your dad ever did. So why does it feel exactly like this? I'm Ben Matthews, consumer bankruptcy attorney, husband, dad, grandfather, and this is Dad Sucks. Today I want to talk about something I've been watching spread across the internet like a financial virus, except this one comes with better memes and worse consequences. It's called Delulu budgeting. And before you change the episode because you think this is a topic for 23-year-olds on TikTok, stay with me. Because underneath the jokes and the memes and the girl math videos is something happening that I recognize immediately from 20 years of watching real people's real financial lives fall apart. It's happening to guys like you more than you think. I'm talking about the guy in the truck. Good job, makes real money, coaches his kids' team on Saturday, handles things, doesn't talk about money stress because that's not what he does. That guy. Because here's what I've noticed. The delusion doesn't always look like a 24-year-old joking about her Klarna account on Instagram. Sometimes it looks like a 44-year-old who just doesn't check the bank balance anymore. Segment 1, what Delulu budgeting actually is. Let me define this quickly so we're on the same page. Delulu is Gen Z slang for delusional, and Delulu budgeting is exactly what it sounds like, pretending your financial situation is less serious than it actually is. Now, before you say, that's not me, let me read you the list, and you tell me how many of these sound familiar. If I don't check the account, the money is basically still there. The credit cards are future me problems. Technically, this wasn't overspending because it was on sale and I saved $40. The minimum payment means I'm handling it. This vacation is self-care, and self-care is an investment in my mental health. I'll get serious about money after the holidays, after summer, after the kids' season ends, after the thing. Now those examples up there, the internet versions are funny. People post them with little laughing emojis and everybody relates and it feels like harmless commiseration. But I want you to hear what those phrases actually are. They're not jokes. They're coping mechanisms wearing a joke costume. And I know the difference because I've heard every single one of them said completely seriously by people sitting across from me in genuine financial crisis. People who started with the joke version and ended up in my office wondering how they got there. Here's the thing that most financial people completely miss about avoidance behavior. People don't avoid the numbers because they can't do math. They avoid the numbers because the numbers make them feel something they don't want to feel. Shame, dread, failure. That specific exhaustion of someone who's been working hard their whole life and still can't seem to get ahead. So they stop looking. And when you stop looking, the problem doesn't pause politely and wait for you to be ready. It just keeps growing quietly in the dark. Segment 2, tiny treats culture and what it's really telling you. Now let's talk about the other half of this, tiny treat culture. And I want to be genuinely careful here because I think most financial commentary gets this completely wrong. The internet is full of content about little treats, small purchases as rewards, tiny luxuries, the $11 coffee and the pastry, the candle that smells like a forest, all justified under the umbrella of, I deserve something good today. And the Dave Ramsey types of the world hear that and immediately start yelling about lattes. I'm not going to do that. Not because the spending doesn't matter. It does. We'll get there. But because if you only look at the transaction, you completely miss the point. Here's what the tiny treat culture is actually telling us if you listen carefully. A lot of people have quietly stopped believing that big financial goals are possible for them. Not people who've never tried. Not people who don't care. People who tried and got knocked back and tried again and got knocked back again. And at some point, the mental energy required to keep chasing a goal that keeps moving further away just ran out. Owning a home free and clear feels impossible. Retiring with any dignity feels like a fantasy designed for other people. Getting out of debt feels like a treadmill that speeds up every time you get your footing. So what happens psychologically when big goals start feeling unreachable? People shrink the reward system. Not consciously, not as a deliberate choice. Just gradually the brain recalibrates. Instead of I'm building a future, it becomes at least I can have this one good thing today. And I want to say this as clearly as I can. That is not laziness. That is what financial exhaustion looks like from the inside. I've sat across from that person. I know exactly what that feels like. And shaming them about their coffee has never once, not in 20 years, helped anyone build a better financial life. Statement 3. Here's where it gets dangerous and personal. Now I need to shift gears because I've been gentle for 2 segments and it's time to be straight with you. Because there's a version of this that happens to guys like you that nobody talks about. And it's more damaging than the latte. And it's more expensive than the tiny treat. And it's harder to see because it doesn't look like a problem from the outside. It looks like a guy who handles things. Let me describe him. He makes good money, has for years. Nobody in his life would describe him as someone who struggles financially because he handles it. The bills get paid, the mortgage gets made, the family takes a vacation, the kids have what they need. But inside the actual numbers, in the account he stopped looking at closely, something has been quietly happening. The credit card that was supposed to be paid off 2 years ago, still there. Balance actually higher than when he planned to pay it off because life kept happening and the card kept being the answer. The truck payment that felt fine when he signed, still there, and the insurance went up, and there are 2 years left on the note. The retirement account, there technically, but he hasn't looked at it in a while because the number is lower than it should be at his age, and looking at it creates a feeling he doesn't want to have on a Tuesday. The overall financial picture, vague. Intentionally vague, because getting specific means confronting something he's been successfully avoiding for several years. See, that's not TikTok Delulu budgeting. That's a 45-year-old man who handles things and has been quietly, competently, completely avoiding his own financial reality. And I'm telling you, I have watched that movie more times than I can count, and I know every scene of it. The good news is I also know exactly how it ends when somebody finally decides to look. Segment 4, why stress makes this worse. The science part. Here's something I want you to understand because I think it'll take some of the self-blame off the table. And self-blame, by the way, is one of the things that keeps people stuck longest. Financial stress isn't just emotionally unpleasant, it's cognitively expensive. Studies, real ones, not inspirational poster stuff, show that financial anxiety actively reduces the mental bandwidth available for decision making, which means the more stressed you are about money, the harder it becomes to make good financial decisions, which creates more stress, which further reduces the decision making capacity. It's a loop, and it's designed to keep you in it. That is why someone can completely understand that they should stop putting things on the credit card, can know it, believe it, want to stop, and still do it. Not because they're weak, because their brain is running an emergency protocol, and emergency protocols prioritize immediate relief over long-term planning. Every time. That is also why exhausted people crave tiny treats. Your nervous system isn't being irresponsible, it's desperately trying to generate one moment of relief from sustained pressure. The problem isn't the craving. The problem is when the craving becomes the strategy. Segment 5, the rock pile. Turning the lights on. Enough diagnosis. Let's talk about what you actually do. The first move is always the same. Turn the lights on. I know that sounds simple. It is not simple. Turning the lights on means looking at the real numbers, all of them at once on paper, and not looking away. This is what the debt sucks rock pile is for. You list every debt, every balance, every monthly payment, every interest rate, everything, one page. The real numbers from the real statements, not the number you think it is, not the comfortable estimate, not the version you'd sell someone if they ask, the actual number. And here's what I've watched happen consistently when people do this for the first time. The number is bigger than they thought. Always, without exception. But, and this is the part that matters, seeing the real number almost always feels better than not seeing it. Because the vague dread that lives in avoidance is infinite. It expands to fill whatever space you give it. It follows you to the gas station and the grocery store and into bed at 2 a.m. A specific number on paper has edges. It's finite. It can be divided by months. It can be attacked with a plan. Chaos lives in vagueness. Clarity is the first act of control. And here's what most people find when they finally build the rock pile, the thing that genuinely surprises them. They don't have an income problem. They have a payment pile problem. Those are completely different situations with completely different solutions. And the moment you can see which one you actually have changes everything. Segment 6, the brutally honest money breakdown. The rock pile pairs with the brutally honest money breakdown. And yes, the name is deliberate because the comfortable version is useless. You write down what actually comes in and what actually goes out. Not your estimate, not the version where you leave out the embarrassing stuff, the bank statement version. You categorize everything: fixed, flexible, automatic, survival, emotional. That last category, emotional spending, is where the tiny treats live. And I want to be clear, I'm not asking you to eliminate it. I'm asking you to see it. Because here's the truth about emotional spending that nobody talks about. When you're running on a financial system that has zero margin, zero breathing room, zero buffer between you and the next thing that goes wrong, emotional spending isn't irresponsibility. It's a pressure valve. The problem isn't the spending. The problem is that the system made the pressure valve necessary in the first place. Fix the system, create some margin, build some breathing room, eliminate some obligations, and the craving for the pressure valve decreases naturally. You don't have to white-knuckle your way to financial health. You just have to build a system that doesn't require it. Segment 7, the Shit Happens Fund. The most important thing I'll say today. I want to talk about the single biggest driver of Delulu budgeting behavior in otherwise responsible adults. No buffer. That's it. That's the whole thing. When you have no financial margin, when every dollar is spoken for before it arrives, every unexpected expense doesn't just cost money. It costs stability. It breaks the plan. It forces a decision under pressure between bad options. The tire blows and your choices are credit card payment, plan payment, or borrow from someone. None of those feel good. All of them create new obligations, and the stress of that moment, the particular helplessness of being a functional adult who handles things and cannot handle this, is exactly the kind of stress that the tiny treat is trying to fix. This is why the very first thing I tell people, before the pile driver method, before the level up money plan, before any strategy, is this: build the Shit Happens Fund. $1,000, separate account, boring, untouched, waiting. Not for wants, not for sales, not for things that are technically kind of emergencies, for genuine, unexpected expenses that life delivers without warning. $1,000 sitting still transforms the emotional experience of being alive in a way that is completely disproportionate to the amount of money involved. The tire blows is $280 of annoying, not $280 of catastrophic. The dog does the expensive things dogs do. You handle it. Without the card, without the payment plan, without the stress spiral. Something breaks, you fix it, and your month doesn't collapse. That's not wealth. That's just the first breath of air after being underwater for a long time. And everything, the pile driver, the level up plan, the whole path out, everything starts from that breath.
Hey, let's get real for a sec. The Debt Sucks plan, it's awesome. It works, but not everyone has the time or the patience to chip away at their financial Mount Everest. Maybe you're drowning right now, like creditors calling your grandma, paycheck gone before it lands, sleepless nights counted drowning. Sound familiar? Listen, you don't have to white-knuckle your way through this alone. Instead of spending years battling debt $1 at a time, I've got you. Bankruptcy isn't a failure, it's a fresh start. And sometimes hitting reset is the smartest thing you can do. At my law firm here in South Carolina, we take the time to listen to your story and help you figure out if bankruptcy is the right choice for you. No pressure, no judgment, just straight answers and real solutions. And if you don't live in South Carolina, don't worry. I can connect you with a trusted attorney in your state. Wherever you are, help is closer than you think. So if you're ready to stop the stress and start fresh, visit debtsucks.info to share a little about your situation or call my office for a free consultation. Let's find your path forward together, because sometimes you don't need a plan, you need a damn lifeline. Let me be that lifeline.
Here's what I want you to take away from today. Delulu budgeting isn't really about being delusional. Tiny treat culture isn't about coffee. They're symptoms. They're what financial exhaustion looks like when it's trying to survive another month. And if you recognize yourself anywhere in this episode, if you heard something that made you shift a little in your seat, that's not a reason to feel bad. That's the beginning of something. The guys I've watched turn this around didn't do it because they finally got scared enough or ashamed enough or motivated enough. They did it because they made one decision to stop looking away. One Saturday morning, one honest hour, real numbers on paper. Go to debtsucks.info. Download the rock pile and the brutally honest money breakdown. Print them out. Sit down before anyone else is up and write down what's actually true. Don't fix it yet. Don't panic. Just see it. Because you can't fight what you can't see clearly. And you've been fighting in the dark long enough. That sucks. But you don't have to.